Hi, and welcome to episode 12 of Johnny Does .NET. My name is Johnny Hooibergs, and in this series of videos, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about my favorite programming platform, .NET. In the episode today, I will talk about creating mobile applications and applications that have a user interface that run on multiple platforms. The technology we are going to use for that is .NET MAUI or .NET Multi-Platform Application User Interface. In my previous videos, I already discussed MAUI a little bit, not into too much details. Now, if you have Visual Studio or the .NET SDK installed, you have some of these templates available, but MAUI is in most cases not available by default. The reason for this is because MAUI is kind of a big thing. MAUI allows you to create applications for multiple platforms, but also UI applications for multiple platforms, and even mobile platforms like Android and iOS. In order for you as a developer to develop on these mobile platforms, you need to have some kind of way to do emulation of these platforms. And installing emulators that emulate a real iOS device or an Android device is quite complicated. So you need to install it as an option. It's not installed by default because it will use some disk space, of course. And if you don't need MAUI as a technology, you're not going to install it. So if we, for example, look at the .NET SDK and you do .NET new list to get a list of all the available templates, you can see that I have a whole list and .NET MAUI is available. But again, it's not available by default. If you don't have .NET MAUI installed as a .NET workload, you will not be able to create these templates. Now, with the same command, but then .NET workload and then search, you will get a list of all the available supported workloads that you can install as part of your .NET SDK installation. And so if you want to use MAUI, you can have MAUI support for different platforms like MAUI Android or MAUI Desktop or MAUI iOS. But if you want to install everything MAUI related for all of these platforms, you can just use MAUI as workload ID. And this will actually be a collection of all the other MAUI templates that are available in this .NET workload. So if you want to install one of these, you just do .NET workload install with then the workload ID. And if you specify MAUI, it will be one package containing everything. So if I, for example, do .NET workload list, you can see that I have the complete MAUI package installed. I actually have it installed for the .NET 7 preview SDK because .NET 7 will be available later this year. So I'm already looking into those preview features. So in order to install MAUI on your system, you will need the .NET SDK and then install the additional workload. Or if you're using Visual Studio, you can go into the Visual Studio installer, pick your Visual Studio version that you are using. For example, I'm going to use the preview version. And inside of this, you should be able to also select the MAUI workloads. So here it says workloads, and I have .NET Multi-Platform App UI Development available. It's selected, so I have MAUI available from Visual Studio. So again, you can do it from command line, .NET new MAUI, or you can do it from Visual Studio. So I will show you from Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project and I'm going to search for MAUI. So multi-platform application UI. As you can see, there's three different templates available. There's the MAUI app, then there's the MAUI Blazor app. I will talk about that a little bit later in this video. And then there's the .NET MAUI class library. A class library for MAUI is just like a class library for .NET. If you want to write some code that you would like to reuse in multiple projects later on, you can do a class library, put everything that you need to reuse inside of your class library, and then reuse that class library for all of your MAUI applications. In my case, I'm just going to select the first one, the regular .NET MAUI app. And as you can see, it is using C# as a programming language, and it enables you to develop applications for Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, Mac OS, Tizen, and Windows. So I'm going to select next, just going to keep the standard name MAUI app 1, and I'm going to use .NET 6 because this is the current version of .NET. So this is a little bit more complicated of a solution, so I will give Visual Studio some time to create that project for me. And as you can see, again, we have a .NET application that looks somewhat similar to all of the other templates that we already did. We don't have a program.cs class, but we have a MAUI program.cs class. But you can see that it's very similar. We're not using top-level programs here. You can, but we have a class and we have a static method, create MAUI app. And this one actually does a very similar thing like the web applications, for example. In the web applications, we were using a web builder to create a web application builder. Here we are creating a MAUI app builder. So a builder that will create our MAUI application and do all of the configuration necessary. So we are going to use the MAUI app concept in .NET so that we have all the dependencies that we need for MAUI applications. We are going to use the app class to do all the initializations, and then we are going to configure some fonts that we will use, and then we build our application so we can start our application. Now, if we look at the Solution Explorer, we can see that we have that app.xaml. So this app class is actually inside of this app.xaml, and this is actually technology that is very similar to WPF. So WPF, the language or the technology that we can use to create Windows-only user interface applications is actually being reused, or at least the language XAML or extensible application markup language is being used and is very similar between WPF and MAUI. It's not exactly the same because it's a different technology, but the language, the XAML language, is very similar. So if you know WPF, it's going to be very easy for you to apply the same concepts in MAUI or vice versa. So in this application.xaml, which is the root of our application in XAML, we in this case define some resource dictionaries where we can add some resources. Resources like colors, brushes, fonts, all kinds of styles that we are going to use inside of our user interface and reuse in all of our different pages or windows within one single application. So we can define in app.xaml everything that we need to use throughout our entire application. Then we have a shell and we have a main page. So the main page is going to be your first page that opens as part of our user interface application. So as you can see, I can run this application on my Windows machine. If I just press play, it will be compiled and it will run on my local Windows machine. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to give Visual Studio some time to compile all of this code and to run that code specifically on Windows. While Visual Studio is doing that, I wanted to show you something, but I guess it's kind of fast today, so I'm expecting something to happen any second now. There we go. So here we have a window. This is my main page. So this one, the main page, it contains a header, contains this icon, hello world, and then a button that can be clicked multiple times. Now, if you look at the XAML code, you will see something very similar again to WPF. We have a scroll view, which then has a vertical stacking layout because we are stacking multiple objects vertically. So the header, the image, the text, and so on. So then indeed, we have the image, we have a label, hello world, we have another label, welcome to .NET Multi-Platform App UI, and then we have that button that can be clicked, and that ends our vertical stack layout and our scroll view. So this is exactly what is being shown here in my user interface application. And of course, when I click the button, I actually call this onCounter clicked event handler that I can find within that C# source code that is linked to this XAML page, just like in WPF, where you can do, whenever a user clicks, I'm going to increase the count by 1. If the count is 1, I'm going to tell it that I clicked 1 time. in all other cases, I'm going to click multiple times in plural. So very easy concept. Now, if I'm double clicking this project file and you look at this project file, then you will see that in the target frameworks, we have actually listed multiple target frameworks. When we are doing .NET's development, we specify for which platform we are going to create applications. And in the past, in my past videos, you could see that if we submit something like .NET 6, we are creating a multi-platform application that can run on Windows, Linux, Macs, whatever. Now, if you do -Windows, you are specifying a target framework that only targets Windows. And because of that, you will have some additional stuff available to you as a developer. There's multiple namespaces, multiple classes now available because you are targeting Windows, so you can do more specifically for Windows. Now in MAUI, we have the same thing, but because in MAUI we are targeting multiple platforms at the same time, we can actually list them at the same time. So we are going to target our single code base for Android, but also iOS and also Mac Catalyst. And then there's a very specific one for Windows that we have to add as an additional line here, that we are going to use .NET 6 for Windows with a very specific Windows SDK version so that we can unlock all of that stuff for Windows specifically. So this is MAUI for you. And because we actually target these multiple platforms, when you press the little drop down button for your play button in Visual Studio, you will actually be able to change your target platform. So I can change, instead of targeting Windows while debugging, I can also target Android while debugging. And if I press play now, I'm not going to run the application on my Windows machine, but I'm going to start the Android emulator, which is this one. So this is a little emulated Android tablet. And now my application will be automatically deployed to this Android tablet, and it will be run automatically. So I can do testing both on Windows, but also on this Android emulator. And you can even use real devices. Yeah, you can deploy to your real Android or iOS device and do your testing from your Android device or iOS device if you want. So again, I'm going to give Visual Studio some time to do the actual deployment to Android. So now Visual Studio will build the Android package, and then the Android package will be uploaded to this Android emulator. And when that is finished, it will automatically start for us. While this is happening, I can maybe show you what that looks like in your File Explorer. So here, if you say for my MAUI app bin, debug, and then .NET 6 for Android specifically, you will see your DLL file. So let's give it some time. Hopefully it will build an Android specific file for me. In Windows, you will see that, just a second, that it's building an executable, of course, a MAUI application executable. So let's give it some more time. Yes, so now you can see for Android, it has built the APK or the Android package file. And this is the actual Android file that you can install on your Android device to have your Android application work. So let's see, the Android emulator is finished, or at least Visual Studio is finished deploying our application to the Android emulator. And now you can see that we have the exact same application as we had on Windows, now running on your Android device. I still have that little click me button that I can click, but I can also, for example, flip my tablet horizontally or in the portrait, where my application automatically adjusts to that, and I can flip it again to landscape, and you will see that the application also adjusts to that. So this is how you can build your user interface applications for multiple platforms at the same time, both PC platforms, but also mobile platforms like Android and iOS, and you only need to write your code once. MAUI also has APIs available to us where we can call very specific stuff on Android and iOS, for example. So if you want to use GPS geolocation, for example, we just have the APIs available in MAUI. We can use them, and MAUI will automatically translate them to the correct native APIs that are necessary for Android and for iOS and for Windows and so on. Because for all these platforms, they work a little bit different. MAUI will help us to have one generic API that is actually available on all of these platforms, which is pretty cool. So back to Visual Studio, back to our MAUI application. You can also see that if you open up the platforms folder right here, that for each platform we have a separate folder. Sometimes when we are creating code, when we are writing code, it is not possible to write code only once for all of the platforms, because some platforms can do things that other platforms cannot do, for example, or they do it in such a different way that it's not feasible to create a generic API for that. In that case, you can actually put your very specific programming logic inside of one of these folders. So, for example, starting your application in Android, it works by using activities. So an Android activity will start your Android application. So that's why these classes are only available within the Android folder. And for iOS, it works a little bit different. So we have the program.cs for iOS, and then for Windows, we have an app.xaml, a very specific one to Windows. So again, we have to mix and match between writing your code only once, which is then made available by MAUI for all of the platforms, and then some very specific cases, we need to write our code separately for each platform, or if only one platform supports a feature and we want to support that feature, I can add it for that platform specifically and just discard it for the other platforms, for example. Now, let's take a look at the second kind of MAUI project. So if you do a new project and you again search for MAUI, we also have that MAUI Blazor application. So MAUI Blazor is a combination of MAUI and Blazor. The name, it's in the name, of course. Now, if you are very familiar and very comfortable with writing web applications using Blazor, single page applications using Blazor, and you want to deploy your application as a native mobile application on Android, for example, you could opt to use MAUI Blazor, because now you can actually have your knowledge on Blazor applied to these pages. So you can make these multiple Razor pages from Blazor, and then you can put them inside of a MAUI project. And in MAUI, you only have one page. You have one XAML page, just like WPF again. But in this case, your page only contains a Blazor web view. So this is a component that you can use to host your Blazor application. So you're basically creating a native mobile .NET application that has a web view, and inside of this web view, your single page Blazor application will be shown. But the cool thing is that you don't need client-server communication to make that work. Your Blazor application can actually be self-contained within that Blazor web view, and you can just write a .NET code in Blazor that is able to call into whatever you need in MAUI. So if you need to do stuff from the GPS or other mobile application specific things, you can call those APIs from your Blazor code, and you don't need to think about the client-server concept of a web application. It will just work inside of your Blazor web view, inside of that MAUI platform. Very, very cool stuff. So you basically have the choice, or you create your application just in XAML for your MAUI multi-platform application user interface, or you reuse the knowledge you already have that you have from Blazor, and you basically create a Blazor single page application, web application, and you apply that to a Blazor app to be able to deploy it to be able to deploy it to a native mobile application. So if I run this on Windows, it will create that same kind of application for Windows, but now it's going to look a little bit different because the template is a little bit different. It's going to create that single page Blazor application with multiple pages, and it will host that inside of that window, that MAUI window. So let's be patient here and hope Visual Studio shows it very soon. Yes, there we go. So this is again our Microsoft Windows window. And inside of this window is that web view, and that web view will host the Blazor application. So this is the same template as the Blazor template, where we have the home page, the counter page that can be clicked multiple times, and then that fetch data page. As you can see, it also reacts very quickly because we don't have that client-server communication. Everything is inside of my MAUI application, and it has immediate access to everything that we want. So it's basically a cool combination of multiple technologies that we can use to very quickly create multi-platform user interface applications. Again, I can do the same thing. I can change my framework to Android, and I can run it on my emulated Android device just here. By the way, when you install the MAUI workload, it will automatically install all of the tools for all the platforms that you are trying to work with. So if you install the MAUI workload for everything, you will get everything. So I automatically get the Android SDK, the Android tools, and also the Android emulators. So there is somewhere inside of Visual Studio, I always forget exactly where it is. Maybe it's this one. Yep, the Android Device Manager. So the Android Device Manager is a tool that will automatically be installed with that workload that allows you to manage all of your Android devices, virtual devices that is. So in this case, I have 3 Android devices, and you can just add a new device. You can select what kind of device, what kind of Android SDK you are using, what kind of virtual things you want to work with, and then just create that, run it, and you can use that for testing your applications. So again, it's being installed as part of that workload, so you don't have to do that manually. Now, my MAUI Blazor application has finished deploying to my Android tablet, and as you can see, it's exactly the same thing here. We have our Blazor single page application, which is being hosted inside of my native MAUI application for Android. And again, I can put my tablet into portrait mode, and it will still work. Of course, because it's a web application, they are very easily changed depending on your screen layout. And that's it. That is MAUI for you. So MAUI, multi-platform application user interface, 2 flavors, just MAUI using XAML, but also MAUI using Blazor in combination with the Blazor technology. And we reached the end of another Johnny.net video. In this video, I talked about .NET MAUI, or .NET Multi-Platform Application User Interface. I showed you 2 types of MAUI projects, just regular MAUI, but also MAUI in combination with Blazor for creating single-page applications, single-page web applications that can be integrated within MAUI so that you can easily deploy your applications in a multi-platform user interface kind of way, and also easily make your applications into mobile applications. In the next video, next week, I will show you a bunch of my personal projects where I combined all of this .NET knowledge and all of these .NET templates together to create a distributed application that use all kinds of different application styles, and then combine them and make them into one application that is working together with all of those components. Did you like this video? Please give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to be notified of future videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you again next week.